Hello, Core 180. Welcome to week 7. I hope you had a good break. I spent a good portion of my break in Northwest Iowa at Lake Okoboji. That was great. We are back home. I am currently in the process of moving home, so this is probably the last time you'll see this lovely backdrop. Hopefully next week I'll be in our new house and a new exciting background. This week, let me give you a couple heads up. We'll be spending 3 weeks on Othello. This is the one I'm using, the No Fear one. There is a version of the No Fear online, which you might be able to use. It won't have page numbers like mine, but you might be able to use that. So we're reading Othello. Hopefully you have a copy of Othello. And then in 3 weeks, so 7, 8, 9 are Othello. 9, 10, 11, 11, 12. You get it. The last 3 weeks I'll be reading True Grit by Charles Portis. If you haven't grabbed a copy of this, you might want to. This may be something you want to start reading, getting ahead. It's a quick read. It's an easy read. But you might want to start thinking about it. The nice thing about our final 6 weeks is it's a little calmer. There's a lot fewer little pieces working together because we're not reading 5 or 6 short stories or a couple essays or a bunch of poems. We're sticking with one text for 3 weeks. So that does kind of give you some breathing room. Also, you've written the majority of your big papers. You've done the short story compare contrast, and then you've done a poetry paper. So you've done 2 of your major papers. You don't really have papers due anymore. So that's a sigh of relief. With the Shakespeare, with the Othello, what you'll be doing is you'll be completing what I'm calling your Othello journal. It's not really a journal. It's a document in which there's all sorts of activities that you do as you read. So you'll need to keep up on that, but you will turn it in one time at the end. And I think I even give you a little bit of time after the final week to complete it. There's all sorts of activities in there like keeping track of who knows who, keeping track of different quotes, what they mean. That journal is going to serve you best if you work on it after every act, maybe even after every scene that you read. If you wait until the very end to fill it out, that's great. Yay, you get it done. Yay, you get the grade, but it will not help you nearly as much. So stay up on that Othello journal every week, but I will only be checking it at the end of the 3 weeks. So this week, a couple of things that you're going to do. You'll notice that there's 2 sections. Now, when you log into Courses at Jort, when you scroll all the way down, there'll be a section of Othello resources. And those will be ones that you'll be using for the next 3 weeks. So have those, look at them, get used to them, familiarize yourself with what's there. I'm not always explicitly going to tell you to use those. Those are mostly for you if you're struggling with something, you need to know something, that's a great place to look. So one of the things you're going to do this week is click through those. Glance through them, read through them. If it's the character list of all the characters in Othello, maybe print that out. Tuck it in your book as you read. That might be a helpful resource. Once you get familiar with those resources, I'd like you to, I'm trying to think of what else I need you to do. You're going to watch a trailer for Othello. I think it's like a 2-minute video. This is the actual official movie trailer for the 1995 version of Othello, which is my personal favorite. Watch that trailer. Nothing will sort of get you excited or thinking about the play, like being able to kind of get the sense with the music, and they give you the high points. So watch that trailer. Then you're going to watch a 7-minute or so video that gives you the basic plot summary of Othello. Now, spoiler alert, it will tell you the ending. So, if you really want to be surprised, I guess don't watch that. And then what I'd like you to do is you're going to read Act 1. And Act 1 is, I think, 3 scenes. There are 5 acts in the play, so we'll read Act 1 this week. Next week will be 2 and 3, then 3 and 4. We'll figure it out. It works out. So the reason we're only doing 1 act this week is because I want you to get into it and give it a chance to really acquaint yourself with the language. So there's a little less reading this week. You can feel free to keep going and reading on if you'd like to. But read Act 1. So the reason I love Othello is it's possibly my favorite Shakespearean play. A lot of Shakespeare's plays, now don't tell this to anyone, but a lot of them seem kind of random. Like, oh, I just happened to be in these woods and I happened to be dressed up like this man that I just happened to fall in love with a person who I thought was my sister. And they seem to have a lot of strange coincidences and you have to kind of believe them. or stretches of the imagination. And so they're fine. They're lovely. They're wonderful. But Othello I love because the drama in it feels really, really genuine, feels very real, and it feels very contemporary. So the basic of what you need to know is Othello, our title character, he's a Moor. He's from Africa. So he is a man of color in Europe, which would be kind of odd, but not completely unheard of. He's a general. He has been amazingly successful in battle, so people like him and respect him. But he always has sort of the feeling, because he is different in his skin color, that he has to work harder. He has to be better. He has to be smarter to kind of make up for that. He ends up, when our play opens, having won the heart of the most beautiful, wonderful person. Her name is Desdemona, and he runs off and marries her. They run off secretly. Partially maybe having to do with his skin color. Maybe that's not so accepted. We do find out in the early scenes that her dad is not hip to Othello marrying Desdemona. So you've got those characters. Then you have a guy named Iago, who may be one of the world's most awful villains. He pretends that he likes Othello, and he'll tell you that in Act 1. I'm going to pretend to like Othello, but really my thing is to get revenge. He got passed over for a promotion. He wanted to be Othello's right-hand guy, and Othello picked this guy named Cassio. So Iago's pretty mad about that. Iago also is a little crazy. He may think that Othello has slept with his wife, with Iago's wife, so he's kind of angry, and instead of being like, hey wife, did you sleep with Othello? Iago just decides to get revenge on the man that he suspects this has happened to. And so Iago's goal throughout the play is to get revenge on Othello and to destroy Othello's life. So you have all this idea of these relationships. There's a lot of ideas of cheating, who's cheating on who knows about what, which feels real to me. Not me personally, but in the world. It feels like a contemporary story. And you also have these ideas of racism. Some of it's subtle, some of it's very explicit. That's going on here. So the play translates well. There is a contemporary version that came out the last 10 years, 15 years. That's probably sooner than that. It's called O, the letter O, which I believe is set in a high school. And it's been many years since I've seen it or done anything with it. So you might check that out. I can't really speak to it in too great a detail. So you'll read Act 1, scenes 1, 2, and 3. You'll read that. You'll get to know the characters. I really recommend, especially the first time, reading through it twice. The language is going to get you, because that's what keeps people from really getting into Shakespeare, is that the language seems crazy. The more you read it, the easier it gets. Even I find every time I get into a play, the first while I have to read very slowly, and then once you get used to it, you're just able to zoom. So take Act 1 slowly. Seriously, read through it once or twice. That is not a bad idea. If you read through an easy version, like a translated version, that's totally fine. Just remember that the questions, the quotes, everything comes from the original text, the original language. So you'll watch Othello, you'll read it. And then you can watch Othello Act 1. I have a link to a YouTube version of the 1995 version with Lawrence Fishburne and Kenneth Branagh. And if you watch the first 25 minutes, that gets you through Act 1. Watch that. You can buy it if you'd like. If you don't want to have, like, this one has Spanish subtitles, you can buy it. I've seen it around for like $2 or $3 online. You can buy that and download it. But if you watch the first 25 minutes, you'll get Act 1. And it does a good job. It does add things, it shows things that maybe are not necessarily in the play, but it definitely gives you a good sense of the story and the character interactions. So that could be really helpful. Then you will answer some questions about Act 1 and upload them. That should be pretty easy. Work on your journal. Do all the stuff for Act 1, although I won't see that yet. Do a discussion board, response, post, you know the deal with that. And there's a quiz on Act 1. You'll have 2 chances on it, so make sure you spend your time wisely. I recommend doing all the other activities for Act 1 and then doing the quiz, because that'll probably make it the easiest. So that's the quiz. And then, if you have not done your second personal response, that's totally on me. I totally forgot before we went on vacation. Do your personal response. You can find the directions to doing one of those. You've already done one. But the directions are under course documents at the very top of our courses at Dort. You can pick anything to respond to. It does not have to be Othello. It can be anything from the past. It could be one of the essays we read right before break. It could be a poem. You pick. So it doesn't have to be Othello. It's wide open. Send that on my way. If you have not done your poetry paper, make sure I get that here shortly. I'll be catching up and putting grades in. You should be able to see your grades and courses at Dork. If you have any questions about those, things aren't showing up, you're not sure, let me know. I'm more than willing to help. If you have any other issues, let me know. Like I said, it should be a little bit calmer, a little easier the next couple weeks. Get those done, and we should be good to go as we read Othello and True Grit. And we'll see you next week.